We can't afford to sack unvaccinated NHS staff. By March 31st, a whopping 6% of the NHS workforce will be dismissed. That amounts to around 80,000 people. All frontline staff are required to have both doses of the COVID jab by April the 1st, meaning that by February the 3rd, the first jab must have been given. OK, look, maybe you think these people should just get the COVID vaccine. Maybe you think they're silly for not doing so. But how do you feel about being desperately ill and there not being someone available to treat you? I find it amazing that people who don't mind being treated by an unvaccinated doctor at the start of this pandemic and right at the very height of the pandemic as well, all of a sudden now think these people pose a huge risk. If you think about it, anyone who's spent the last 18 months working in a hospital has probably had COVID at least twice. They're likely to have antibodies seeping out of every single pore, aren't they? And even if they had the jab, they could still get COVID and they could still give it to you. Isn't it astonishing how many people have a blue heart in their Twitter bio? How many of the same people went outside and just clapped for our NHS staff, who demanded better pay for nurses, who thought our medical professionals were the unsung heroes? Well, now they're absolutely fine with them being sacked for not getting the COVID vaccine. There's a bit of hypocrisy there, isn't there, I think? Tens of thousands of NHS workers were clapped and now they'll be sacked. Look, I completely understand if you think that they should just get the jab. But is it actually the be-all and the end-all? Isn't it amazing that the same people who are telling us the NHS is at breaking point, it's on its knees, it's in crisis, they're also demanding that those dangerous vaccine refuseniks lose their jobs? Well, I'm sorry, but you can't have it both ways. You can't keep complaining about there being an NHS staff shortage. We couldn't fill the Nightingale hospitals because we didn't have enough staff. We haven't got enough nurses because we don't pay them enough. Since Brexit, no one wants to come here and work in our beloved NHS. And then say that you're perfectly happy with 80,000 NHS workers being sacked. The chances are that if someone has not yet had the COVID jab, especially someone who works in the NHS, then they're just not going to get it, right? You might think they've made the wrong decision. That's absolutely fair enough, right? But it's bodily autonomy at the end of the day. The NHS waiting list is set to hit 12 million by 2025. People are already dying in ambulances outside hospitals because there isn't room for them inside, because the amount of staff needed to treat them simply doesn't exist. In some cases, people are being told not to call an ambulance, rather, they should book a taxi. We have a care home staff shortage. We have a recruitment crisis in the NHS. Can we, as a nation, really afford to just ditch 80,000 NHS workers? And people will say, well, they're not all doctors and nurses. Yeah, fine, that's true. But if there isn't a cleaner on your ward or receptionist, etc., that's still an issue, isn't it? If I was sick, personally, I couldn't care less about the vaccine status of the person making me better. People who think those NHS staff who haven't had the jab are being selfish, I'd ask this: how selfish are you? You want them to be sacked. You want there to be fewer doctors and nurses, so when somebody else's relative gets ill, they might not be able to get treatment. That's pretty selfish, if you ask me.